Hey, what is up, you guys? This is Eric with OzoneTCG, and today we're taking a look at some accessories you may need for a tournament. Some of these will be optional. Some of these you'll really want, even if they're not necessarily required. You will want things. We're going to list them off and tell you some of the pros and cons of some of the brands that we have in the game and available for purchase. We're not affiliated with any of these brands or anything. We have nothing against the ones we like or nothing against the ones we don't like either. Just wanted to let you guys know what you need. There are a lot of new players trying to play the game in person, especially because in-person events and regionals are, for the most part, back besides YCS's. And as far as we know, national championships. So you really want to know exactly what you need and don't need for tournaments. Before we get to the video again, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. Let's get right on into it. So first off, the number one thing you're going to want to have, number one and two things really are a playmat. We see this one, this special old Ozone playmat, and card sleeves. You guys will see here. We have some different kind of card sleeves. I have kind of a sea green, turquoise, and white ones on the right and left. These are dragon shields right here. These were purchased almost a year ago. I try and use them just for, you know, collections, things like that. But these are really nice sleeves. Number one things you're going to want to have are sleeves first and foremost. Doesn't really matter which brand for the most part. I do recommend some brands over the others. I would say something like Ultra Pro and KMC mats tend to be the best, especially Dragon Shields right now. They are also some of the best, highest quality, best and highest quality, because Dragon Shields specifically do not split easily. Things like Ultra Pros are fine when they're fresh out of the sleeves. They do tend to get dirty really easily. KMCs are kind of in the middle. They used to be my favorite. Now I think Dragon Shields are beyond the best now. These are the couple years old of KMCs. I think they're about two years old. Of course, they have some splitting near the top right here where the card actually opens. Kind of riffling just from their age. That's going to happen with all these kind of cards. But honestly, you do need sleeves. They are not required technically by tournament policy standards, but if you are given the option to use sleeves, you do want to use them. And no tournament's going to forbid them or anything like that. So number one thing, you need sleeves. And then number two, like I said, a playmat. You don't want to be one of those people who doesn't really play in a playmat at your locals. Might seem cool to not use it, but we highly recommend, because you don't know what kind of germs have been on the tables at locals. Even if they've sanitized everything, you still don't know exactly. You know, someone's brushed their arm against there, they've been sick, haven't washed their hands, anything like that. Especially with the current times we're in, you definitely want to make sure you have a playmat to protect yourself and to protect your cards. You know, some of these custom ones, they're okay. You can always get a cheap rubber playmat if you want, or you can get a cloth playmat. And there are a couple of kind of cloth playmats that have really taken off. Pyramid and Gem have really tried to take the centerfold with their playmats over. Spellgrounds, really, Calsa Games has been the number one playmat producer for the longest time. I think Pyramid is the one taking over for the most part. We can give you know, some kind of review of all these kind of playmats in the future. But if you want cloth, you're going to want to go with one of those three. Generally speaking, there are others. I love Ophidian mats. They are super cheap, especially just the blank ones. They're like 20 bucks. Don't have any designs on them. They sell them in bulk for that price. And they are some of the best I've ever seen. But you definitely want to get a playmat. If you just want to play a $10 rubber playmat, that's cool too. Hey, it's just a mouse pad. They are made of the exact same material, same sublimation process as mouse pads. They work just as fine too. So most people, I would say, most competitive players tend to like the cloth playmats because they tend to last a little bit longer. They're a little bit easier to clean off rather than having to use a sponge or anything. On a playmat, you can brush these off or vacuum them off with a low power vacuum, anything like that. Theoretically, you can also wash them. I would not necessarily recommend it unless you are experienced with it though. But yeah, you can wash them. They also tend to look nicer. Just more of a personal opinion on that, but I think a lot of cloth playmats, even if they don't have designs on them, they tend to just look a little bit more professional. They don't look like they are, you know, cheaply manufactured kind of weed playmats. I know you guys have seen them if you guys have gone to locals before. A lot of people play on the cheap ones, custom printed ones, 25 bucks on Amazon or eBay. That's kind of the image. But there are a lot of nice rubber playmats that do exist that do last a long time. However, cloth, generally speaking, with Yu-Gi-Oh, tends to last longer. And because our cards are smaller and we don't need as many spaces compared to, say, something like Magic, we can afford the space on here. We're also going to talk about some types of sleeves. So these are some of the Dragon Shields ones I use. These I've used for a while. I just use them for collections, and then I use the jet ones on, say something like my extra deck. These are also called over sleeves. These are one of the most recent ones from Amanda LaPalme, Manamoon, manamoon.com. Haven't tested these quite yet, but you can use something like over sleeves for the tops of your cards. They do have to be clear on the back. They can have some kind of design on the front, so long as they're not interfering with the actual card art, card text, anything like that. Anything that you need to see on the card, it can't be covered up. And really, these are going to be what you need. These over sleeves, you want to get them fitted as closely as possible to your other sleeves, to your inner sleeves as your outer sleeves. So these are slightly larger than your inner sleeves. But these, a lot of people use something like Dragon Shield clears that are standard size. Those work okay. I don't recommend them because they slide around the card. Sometimes if they slide around too much, you can actually be disqualified for that. That is why a lot of judges will recommend against them, myself included. I would not use them unless you know exactly where they're being positioned, or if you're good at keeping them secured on the inside. I would recommend using these kind of over sleeves that are more fitted, specifically for Japanese sleeves compared to the others. One of the other things that's not necessarily mandatory, I would use a field center. This is an official one from the Battle of Chaos premiere. You don't have to use these, but it is nice for using something like this kind of cloth playmat where you don't have any kind of zones or anything like that. I use, for this specific design, I made the mat. I designed it originally for the first iteration of OzoneTCG. This one, the sun, you can kind of use it as a field center, but if you were to put this right here, okay, now you know for sure that it is indeed the center of the field. This is just like a basic kind of flimsy cardboard one, really easy to bend around. Some people Konami has a few official acrylic ones, some metal ones, and then there are a lot of third-party field centers. Either they have, some kind of NFC chip in them, a QR code on the front, just a custom design, metal stamped, anything like that, metal with a sticker on it. I've made my own with a QR code on the front. I use that for advertising, of course, for the channel. If you guys like them, cool. We might end up, distributing them at some point. But you do want to at least have one. I personally use a metal one normally if I'm not using the OzoneTCG one. I made that of acrylic and plexiglass. But you want to have one of these. Just at worst, just so you can mark it. You can use it as a token if you absolutely need to, so long as it's not confusing in any way. You definitely want these, just at the very least as a side thing. One of the other things a lot of people don't use or don't talk about are deck dividers. These are from the Pokemon Elite Trainer boxes. Specifically, you get 4 per Elite Trainer box. Sometimes they give out 5 if it's like a misprint box. These are used to divide between your main deck, side deck, and extra deck. I use not these ones specifically, not this design. I use a different design from a previous Elite Trainer box. I use them for keeping my tokens separate, keeping my extra deck and side deck separate from my main deck as well. These are good in doing that, and they are a more stiff cardboard. You could also theoretically use them as a field center too if you really wanted to. I just think these look nice because these are standard size, a little bit bigger, and they have the little tab on the top of the divider specifically so that you can actually differentiate between the tabs, and it's easier to pull them. Instead of trying to grasp at a card, it's easier to just pull from the tab. It's like an office file, anything like that. And compared to the field center, the official Konami field centers, which are approximately standard size cards, you can see right here that the little notch comes up overhead. So if you're using something like Dragon Shield standard sleeves as your clear over sleeves for your cards, these will stand out perfectly. You'll be able to see your cards just fine. You'll be able to reach through your different decks just fine by just fanning through them and feeling for the top of the notch. That's what they're for. And honestly, a lot of locals sell these because they come in every Elite Trainer box of your locals. or Target or Walmart, anything like that. If they sell Elite Trainer boxes, you play Pokemon TCG or you don't, these are still cool to pick up. Sometimes they'll sell them for like, $1 to $5 on eBay. I still recommend getting them. I think these are really cool. They come in a bunch of different designs, and Pokemon has really stepped up their quality in the past few years with the quality of the art on here. I have the most recent Billion Stars ones. They are actually kind of foil. They have some foil on the front, and they have a picture of Arceus on the back. Specifically, I got 4 with this Elite Trainer box. Again, that's the standard number. Sometimes the special editions have more, but these are really cool, and they just look nice in general. Might as well get them anyway if they're inexpensive to purchase. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and move on a little bit to some of the other larger accessories. And so some of the other accessories you may want are a deck box. I highly recommend getting some kind of deck box, something that you want to protect your cards. Obviously with your sleeves are going to help protect from dirt, anything like that, but actually storing your cards, making sure that they're protected in any kind of bag you may use. If you use something like a book bag, some people use a purse or something, a messenger bag, anything like that, you want to make sure they are protected. I personally use either this Gem Kraken or the Gamegenic deck box. This holds approximately 120 double sleeve cards. Really nice for the price. I think it was like 25 bucks, something like that. Gem was like 30, 35, 40, something like that as well. You definitely want something like this. If you like the plastic deck boxes, I don't recommend those, but if you absolutely love them, you love to use them, Pokemon ones, official ones, Yu-Gi-Oh ones, Ultimate Guard, Ultra Pro, anything like that, that's cool. Number one thing I recommend is Gamegenic. I think they are by far the best, especially with the new Tolarian Community College one. The professor helped design one for the Academia deck box. It is insane the way it looks. This is the same company, the same guy who designed this deck box also actually made that design in whatever programs they use. I highly recommend Gamegenic. I think again that they are the best because they have the highest quality materials and these are sturdy. Also has the most features. For this kind of caliber of deck box, this is a smaller one. I'm going to show you guys the difference between these. So this smaller one is basically just to hold your deck, main deck, extra deck, side deck. I don't use this one right now for my current deck because it is a little bit too small, and that's okay. You guys are going to want to use this if you only want to use, main extra side, some tokens, anything like that. This does hold quite a bit of sleeves. I'm actually going to show you guys in person right now what it looks like. So this is my deck currently, kind of a 10-year sword. So I play, a bunch of different things with my dividers, more dividers, anything like that. I have some tokens in the back, and I have my extra deck here. I have, of course, the V-Star tokens I use. This entire thing will barely fit in here, and that's okay. Again, I have a bunch of tokens in here, and I'll show you guys. Again, probably, 100 and whatever card, probably right around 100 double sleeve cards, depending on, so say that I were to take the token out. They don't all quite fit, but say if I take the tokens out from here specifically, and just to show you guys, those are my tokens. Then you can see from here that it will basically just fit. You can also use your dividers on here. Yeah, so it snugly fits in here. You can still, you can see some bend in here, but you can still take them out by moving them like that. Definitely think if you just want them and you keep your cards in a deck box, in this kind of deck box, you want to have your accessories in a backpack. One of the accessories that you can use is kind of a dice bag. This is also for Mana Moon. Just keep your dice in here. They're cheap. You can get these anywhere, even if it's not branded. You can just get them from Amazon. Your local game shop will usually have them too. This won't fit all of my tokens. It does in here in this case, but it may not fit all of your tokens for your specific deck. This is now basically impossible to move out with a lot more give. I wouldn't travel around like this unless, I didn't want to carry around any dice, but I like keeping my dice in my deck box. But this is by far, again, the best way, easily the best deck box for this kind of need. Everyone's needs are different for their trading card games. This Gamegenic deck box is going to be the best for something like this. I think that if you're playing any regular deck, you can get away with something like this. And and it also, stays on its side like this. You can keep it upright, you can move it up more. The magnets are incredibly strong. I highly recommend using this if you're going to be playing with just a deck, no dice, don't need anything like that, or you keep the dice in your pocket, anything like that, or in your book bag. This is definitely an A tier deck box. I can't say enough positive things about it, besides it not having any kind of dice compartment. Otherwise, it's perfect. It does not disassemble easily. Say that your card's upside down. I'm shaking it right now. Your cards aren't coming out. They're just not. These magnets are incredibly strong. For your needs, you may want this. I highly recommend it if you think that this would be a good fit. This is a smaller type deck box, so if you want an upgraded kind of deck box in order to store your dice, this is a gem. This is kind of a more popular design. A lot of companies have this kind of design now. They all use the same suppliers. I even know them. This is the Gem Tech Kraken. It has a bunch of compartments. This is kind of a more mid-tier size. I don't currently have a large deck box. That's I can show you guys later the Professor's Tolarian Community College's new Game Genic deck box, but this is kind of a mid-tier one, or mid-size, anything like that, where you can hold your dice in here. I keep a silica bag in here just for humidity purposes, Florida weather, how it is. But this is going to hold basically your entire deck. Again, from before, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. I actually keep my whole deck in here right now that I use personally in this deck box specifically, because it holds everything in just one compartment. And I keep some extra cards in here that I haven't put in a binder yet. I always take them out before locals, before big tournaments, anything like that. But it does fit everything in here very comfortably, and it still has enough wiggle room so that it's not, pushed up. All your cards aren't pushed up right against each other. But I do use, of course, the dividers. I use them front, back, or if I'm using more, then I'll put them between the decks, off to the side. But it also has more space, of course, like I said, for these, holds a bunch of cards. These still have enough wiggle room. This is good if you have a lot of accessories on the side. If you like to trade, you just put your trades in there, something like that. In between rounds, put them in your binder, anything like that. I definitely think that this is a good option, although it's not as high quality as far as the materials go. The build quality is not as good as the Game Genic, because Game Genic does pride themselves in their quality, and I completely agree with it, again, having tested it. But for the price, these are all pretty good deck boxes. I don't think you'll go wrong with any of them. If you want a larger quality deck box, or larger capacity rather, we can take a look at those some other time, but those have a lot of different options because those are more suited for Magic the Gathering. Sometimes Pokemon, but more so Magic, because there's the Commander format, EDH, where you do play 100 card decks that are all singletons. You can't play any card of the same name. You're going to be playing a lot more cards. You're going to have a lot more cards, and especially because Cube is more popular in Magic the Gathering, a Cube format. Some people want to carry their entire, Cube format cards in a single deck box. Okay, well then at that point you'd be using a large capacity deck box. But I think for most Yu-Gi-Oh players, you're going to want to use one of these sizes. And sometimes they get a little bit bigger than this. Sometimes they get a little bit smaller than this one. Sometimes you have plastic ones. For example, sometimes we'll use this Ultimate Guard one. This is an example of plastic one. If you guys seen the Ultra Pro ones, you guys have seen something like this. This is perfectly fine too. I wouldn't necessarily use this for your expensive decks, but just for like bulk cards, they're perfectly fine. Some of the other accessories you're going to see, you're going to want at least, is something like a binder. And of course, you guys have ever been to locals and they've asked you for trades. Yeah, you guys have probably seen something like this. This is a 4-page binder, or 4-slot binder. There are 3x3, 4x3, even 4x4 binders. This is a 2x2, of course. 2 down, 2 to the side, just like any grid. I use this just for the cards that I use the most, or cards I don't want to trade, anything like that. Keep them off to the side. But there are, of course, larger binders that hold more cards. Depending on what kind of trade collection you have, depending on what you need, you may want to use a smaller binder, you may want to use a larger binder. We have a bunch of different recommendations for each of those. I use this 2x2, I also have a 4x3, and I also have a 3x3 binder, depending on what it is. So for example, I use a Gamegenic one just for my own, kind of storage. I have a Plunder Patrol deck right here. In here, this is, of course, a 4x3. Again, 4 to the side, 3 down. Yeah, I think this binder is really nice too for what it is. It uses just all the same materials. Mostly the quality is going to be the same between each of them. Sometimes, Monster will make their own Monster Guard, anything like that. Ultimate Guard, sometimes the binders too. Gamegenic, a bunch of different, third-party, Mana Moon, Gemtech, they all have their own, binders that they've made over the course of the last few years, especially the last 2 years. They've really pumped out a lot of different accessories. But anything like this is going to do you probably just fine, especially for trading. This is, again, a larger binder, so it may not fit in your specific backpack. I make sure that my backpacks can accommodate this because I like this one so much. But even something like this, it works just fine, right? For some of you, you may want to use just a 3x3, and those are perfectly fine too. I've seen those everywhere. Most people use them for Yu-Gi-Oh because your playsets are 3-ofs rather than 4-ofs. Because I put Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh in here, of course, it's going to be a little bit different. For this one specifically, again, I use this for something like deck cores, but for a trading one, I use a 3x3. And this is one of the 3x3s. This was a Card Guardian off of Amazon. You can find these even your local card shops. Ultra Pro, Monster, they all make a version of this. So this is what it'll look like. It'll have, of course, the 3 down, 3 to the side per page. And this is a nice quality. I like the zipper one specifically because it is for trading. I want to make sure they're protected during regionals or higher events, anything like that. While being able to easily access them. So you can see right here, zipper goes there. If it's a long-term storage, then I will, of course, use just this kind of binder that just has a strap. If you don't have a strap on your binder, that's cool too. I do recommend having a strap or a zipper on there just to protect your card, just so that nothing falls out if I had it where some of my cards fall out. And don't want that to happen. Don't want them, especially if they are higher rarity cards. I keep all my Pokemon stuff in here, anything like that. Any of my deck cores will go into one of these larger binders, or a smaller binder that also has a strap. Again, the smaller one has a strap too. So you definitely want something like that. Yeah, and then as far as actually when you're in a tournament, right? So this is all mostly stuff that you don't necessarily need for playing, but what you do need, besides maybe your mat, sleeves, and deck box for playing, pad and paper. This is a cheap one, I think from like Staples or Amazon, something like that. You definitely want a notepad. You have to write it on paper. You cannot use something like an Ultimate Guard digital pad, one of those digital boxes, your phone, anything like that, unless it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Neurons. You're allowed to use Yu-Gi-Oh! Neurons to keep track of life points, but you do need to keep it on paper as well. You absolutely need a pen, pencil, anything like that, writing utensil, and paper. Recommend a pen instead, especially if it's like fast drying ink, just so it doesn't get messy, and you generally can be careful with it smearing. The pad and pen, paper, anything like that, those are always going to triumph over keeping track of your life points digitally, because the digital medium can be manipulated so easily. A judge will always be siding with someone who has a pen and paper over someone just keeping it track on, even on a digital pad. Again, like Ultimate Guard produces them. Any kind of those electronic LED writing boards. They will always side with you if you have one of these. This is the easiest way to make sure that you're keeping track of life points properly. Any kind of mandatory notes you have can be written on here. This is going to be part of your record. Your graveyard and your pad and pen are going to be your records for the game. Exactly what's happened in the match, what kind of life points have been deducted, so you can backtrack in case anything happens. You need these to play. This is a requirement to play in the game. A lot of locals don't enforce it. It is what it is, but you do need to play this at higher level events, especially remote. You want to make sure both yourself and your opponent are making sure the game states are accurate. You absolutely need these. So yeah, this is kind of part one of a little bit of sample accessories. If you guys want me to review some playmats, deck box, we're going to try and get a lot of those out more. I really like the way that something like Talarian puts out, Talarian Community College professor, in the way that he reviews sleeves and deck boxes. I really want to model a lot of these videos off of that too. We're going to really try and make sure we have a lot more of those, because they are lacking in the Yu-Gi-Oh scene. Magic and Pokemon tend to have a lot more opportunities with that. I think Yu-Gi-Oh is missing a lot of it though, so we're going to try and see what goes on with that. Again, if you guys like this, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to push out more of these. I think we'll put another one of these out this week. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about these accessories, what else you guys think you need to see. We can also do a tournament setup with a backpack, how maybe you want to organize your bag, how best to protect yourself from that. I can absolutely do that too. Again, this is Eric with OzoneTCG. We'll see you guys in the next one.